guys, welcome back to another episode of Crossing the Line. We have some good news and some bad news. I don't know if you've been following the news lately, but Albo seems to be wanting to ban anyone from saying anything mean, whether it's online, in person, or even possibly thought crime at this point. I wouldn't put it past him. So Australia is struggling with free speech laws at the moment, and we are also under attack from our own government with taxes, over taxes. The economy is stagnating. Housing crisis is ever present. People are losing their jobs. People can't afford to feed their kids, pay their bills, or even put petrol in the car. And Albo is, busy making sure that the Jewish population of Australia being very small indeed, and the Muslim population of Australia being very small, are foremost, and making sure that their feelings aren't hurt. So we wouldn't want to upset any of them, but that's the bad news. So we've got another 2 years or so of Albo unless something drastic happens. And the good news is One Nation's polling is skyrocketing. Whether that they'll be able to form a new government or not, obviously very hard to be able to get that even on the table. But, it just goes to show that Australians are upset. They are, pretty much over the one-sided politics here in Australia. And the Labor and Liberal, cohort are being ousted, hopefully, for a new right-wing party, whether it's One Nation or something in the form of One Nation. We'll explore that a little bit and explore the polls with that. But first off, we're going to get into the story from The Guardian. Could Labor's hate speech laws damage Australia's free speech? Here's what you need to know about this contentious bill. Now, Albo and the left-wing communistic government has pushed through this in the last week and pretty much destroyed anyone's free speech here in Australia, especially if you're someone like me who puts violently political views online, whether it's a joke or not. This is going to cause some problems for people like you and I. Labor's hate speech bill has alarmed free speech advocates who say it could have unintended consequences. First of all, I don't think they're unintended. I think that's the actual intent of this bill, to silence voices like yours and mine, and make people think twice before saying anything that could possibly get them arrested and put in jail, or even just a fine, ruin their lives from stating something that they believe, or even, having a discussion on history or having a discussion on facts. It could get Australians locked up and put in prison. Labor says the bill, which would criminalise hate speech, create a new hate group listing, establish a gun buyback, and create new grounds to reject or cancel visas, would strengthen national security and national unity. But the pathway through the parliament looks increasingly difficult, with the Liberals calling the bill pretty unsalvageable and the Greens warning they would not pass it in its current form. Labor would need to either party to pass it through Senate. Now, the Greens don't want to pass it because it doesn't have minorities like gay and lesbians and trans people on the bill, or something along those lines, because at the moment it's not illegal to, I don't know, say you don't like gay people, maybe commit a hate speech crime against a gay or trans person or something along those lines. But mark my words, that will be added to the bill shortly. That will be probably the next round of discussions at Parliament. That will be added in. It wouldn't surprise me at all. In this statement, Greens Deputy Marine Farkey, leftist pig of a thing, says that the legacy of appalling violence at Bondi cannot be undermining the civil and political rights, objecting to laws that could be used to weaponise racism and hate against Australians. The Greens do nothing but weaponise hate against Australians. They use their shield of retardation and their bullshit book of fake facts to push their agenda, lie to the public, and say that they're, the Greens were originally made to, protect the environment and things like that. And now that they're advocating for communist beliefs and ideals, socialism, and basically anything that'll undermine Australia's rights and free speech, they're for. They are a bunch of disgusting socialists and communists. They should be absolved and just removed from any form of government. And they should be, actually, some of them should be arrested and sent to jail for crimes against the state and crimes against the country. Whether, whatever rules are in place for the, whatever consequences are in place for being a traitor to your own country, we'll have a look at that later. Could the bill limit free speech? Concerns have been raised about whether adding a concept of hatred in speech to criminal law could be too open for interpretation by the courts. New racial vilification law in its current form would require a court to find that the individual charged with that crime had intent to cause hatred, that the conduct would cause a reasonable person to fear from that targeted group to fear harassment, intimidation, or violence for their safety. Now, the problem with that is the letter of the law there. It says if in its current form, require a court to find the individual charge had intent to cause hatred. Then they go and ask the group of people apparently that may have been, been attacked in this hate speech thing. I don't know. If a reasonable person feels that they could fear harassment or intimidation or violence or fear for their safety. The problem with that is everything you say against a lot of minority groups, take the Jews, for example, the Jewish people. If you say that you aren't a fan of them bombing Palestinian children into rubble, which is a very, milquetoast statement, you're not a fan of the country and government of Israel doing that to Palestinian children or anyone really, that could be misconstrued, or that a lot of Jewish people would say that that's anti-Jewish and harassment, or you're attacking their religion, when it's got nothing to do with religion. It's a government, and they could say that that's a reasonable person, and they feel fear or harassment, intimidation, or violence from you just saying that statement. Now, to me, saying that statement now on YouTube, that could, with this legislation that's been pushed through, get me in trouble. If that's, if someone was to be offended, when you're talking to a group of people, if you're talking to one person and you say, look, we're not going to offend anyone, we're not going to offend each other, let's shake on it, we're not going to offend each other in this conversation, whether we're having a debate or a conversation about your favorite energy drink or your favorite chest exercise, let's say. One-on-one, that's pretty easy to do. When you have 3 people in a group, it gets a little harder, that you're not going to say anything that could trigger or upset anyone. When you have 5 people, it's even harder. And when you're talking to someone, say an auditorium of people with a couple hundred people, it's very hard to say something that is not going to upset at least one person in that group, where they could, say that you've offended them. Jordan Peterson was talking about this because he would know best. When you get to the point of whether you're putting a video out on Facebook or YouTube or X or something like that, whether it's intentionally, like, so my videos here go out to a couple of people, and say something pops off and it goes out to 10,000 people, or awesomely, it'd be great if it went out to 10 million. If something like that happened and I offended someone in that 10 million people that were in Australia, I could be sued, or I could be charged with, with this bill. I could be charged for offending someone, and possibly 20 years in prison or something like that, for a hate crime, just because you offended a single person on the internet, when, it's not anyone's intent to offend anyone. I mean, I don't go out trying to offend people. Some things I say can be very offensive, and some things that shouldn't be offensive are found offensive these days. I mean, it used to be able to call a transmission in a car a tranny, but now you do it, you get banned on Facebook or YouTube, and now I'm probably going to get in trouble from YouTube for just saying that word, even though it's a Australian slang term. I don't know whether it's just Australian. We seem to make everything a bit shorter here in Australia, but that used to be a word we'd use for a mechanical device in a car. Say with the slave or master cylinder, or slave or master, part of the computer or whatever. Things like that. They, you know, hatred and intent are very, interpretable. Whatever you think might be hateful, the next person might not think it's hateful, and whatever, if you think you don't have any intent, someone you're talking to could think that there is intent behind your words. It's basically leaving it up to Joe Blow to say that, yeah, you deserve 20 years in prison or whatever because I was offended. It's ridiculousness to even bring this to Parliament. I don't even... And in the wake of the massacre at Bondi Beach, this is reprehensible. This is not the conversation we should be having right now. The conversation we should be having about is what kind of people we let into this country, what kind of religions we let exist in this country that preach hate and hateful ideology. I'm sure the church, the mosque that those two men that committed the Bondi massacre were going to weren't preaching love and joy. They were preaching hate and jihad. Why weren't they investigated? Why aren't they the ones being charged with these so-called hate speech laws? It's not to protect Jews. It's not to protect minorities. This is just out there for the government to use as a weapon against individuals that they do not like. Following on from that, the next group of people I see that them using this exact bill on are the people who actually have a spine and voted against this bill. That would be One Nation and a few other people in Parliament that decided they weren't going to just let this bill go without a fight. And eventually it's gone through anyway. But they have their backbone and they voted no against it. And this is where I'm afraid it's going to be really detrimental to Australians. We're going to change from this story here from the Guardian and go to this one about One Nation. The new poll reveals why One Nation is soaring. The problem I see arising is historically saying something online, putting something online, it doesn't go away. It's always there. And being a politician, running for any sort of seat in power, people who don't like you or want to get some power over you will dig up the past and use it against you. This new law, this new legislation they've brought through on hate speech doesn't have a date on it. Like, it doesn't just, okay, from this date onwards, say it came in today, this date onwards, anything you say after that is hereby, under that law. So you can't say anything now. They can pick something from 30 years ago that someone said and use the law against them for that they said something 30 years ago. How is that fair? How does that make sense? Because ideologies change, views change. People, things like Hillary Clinton was famously against gay marriage. So was Barack Obama. Obama, I should call him, because he's quite fond of bombing weddings. And now that you would think that those kind of people are on the other side of the spectrum. Spectrum being the perfect word for those kind of people. But should we be able to, drag them before a court and possibly sentence them 20 years in jail for having those views 20, 30 years ago? No, you shouldn't be able to do it if they have those views now. But this law, this legislation, this is what the government has just pushed through. Does just that. So you can be put in jail for things you've said historically. And I believe that's what they are going to try to do to people like One Nation, Pauline Hanson, Malcolm Roberts, people like that. If they've said something colourful 20 years ago, well, I'm sure Pauline's got a few grand old hits. Barnaby Joyce now with One Nation. I guarantee you they will try to use this new law against One Nation or anyone who stands up against them, like Gerard Rennick. if they've said something colourful 10 years ago about trans people or Muslims or Jews, any of these minorities that never shut up and never stop fucking whinging, they will use this law against them. They will drag them through the court system, even if they don't get sentenced or they don't go to prison or they don't get a fine or anything like that. The system is going to be the punishment. The news will run headlines. Pauline Hanson, One Nation MP, whatever it is, hauled before the courts for being racist and saying hateful things online and blah, 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 or whatever. And they are going to try to make sure that they keep their hegemony of their socialist communist dictatorship as just that. Just they're the only ones in power. No one can stand up to them. Labor's trying to do it to the Liberal Party anyway. And I just don't see how One Nation will ever get any power, because I can guarantee you Anthony Albanese's government will go out of their way to make up some bullshit law, bullshit rule that will ban One Nation or parties like One Nation. They will either ban them getting new members. They will, I don't know, whatever powers they have, they are going to use against One Nation or any other party. The only way that One Nation could ever really make a legitimate run for getting a prime minister in, because we know Pauline Hanson can't become prime minister because she's in the lower house. We need more people. They need more MPs. They need people like other groups like Gerard Rennick, who I really like, but they do butt heads with One Nation, which is stupid, because I see that they're on, they make up probably, they get along with 80% of what each other say. I'd say 80, even if it's 50-50, they get along with 50-50 of what each other say. But they seem to have, like, Gerard a couple of weeks ago had a big SPAC attack against Malcolm Roberts and Pauline Hanson for, I can't even remember what it was. It was that minute and pointless. But they seem to bring up their differences more than they bring up the things that they get along with. Like, surely you can put the few little things that you don't get along with behind, put them on the back burner, bring them up later. Don't forget about them. Like, debate it, work through it, find a middle ground, whatever you want to do. Whether it's on things like, tax, whether it's on things like immigration, housing affordability, whatever kind of, red tape, all that kind of thing. I'm sure you agree on a lot of it, but anything you disagree on, just, bring it up for debate and work out a middle ground. That's the idea, isn't it? But they just seem to not want to do that. And they just say, no, I can't possibly work with those people because I disagree with them on this one minute thing that no one really cares about, or that we could possibly come to terms with. It's like, say the abortion debate for one. Say one person says that, okay, you shouldn't be allowed to abort a baby after 3 months. The other person says, okay, you shouldn't be able to abort a baby at all. There's a big middle ground. There's a big area there where you can choose, like, basically at the end of it, you don't want to be killing an unborn child. And you kind of both agree on that, but you just agree by a couple of points here or there. But refusing to work with one another, we saw that with the election with Donald Trump, where there was a whole bunch of right-wing Christian nationalist groups saying that they wouldn't vote for Donald Trump because he doesn't want to ban abortion outright, which is just retarded at that point. Like, if you're getting 90% of the things that you want, but you're not getting that 10% thing, and you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater, what's the fucking point? I think that if that is the case, and I don't know whether Gerard Rennick still feels this way about One Nation, but if that's still the case, then I think you're just paid opposition at that point. If you're saying, no, don't vote for them at all because they don't agree on this one little minute thing, and it's not like it's a big thing, like Pauline Hanson's out there saying that we need to, bring in 50 million Indians or Pakistanis or something, and Gerard's like, no, that ain't going to happen. That's a big difference in opinion. That's not a tiny little thing, but the things that all these little parties disagree on are just minute little things, like the marijuana party, the shooters and fishing party, things like that. Those little parties like that need to coalesce, come together with One Nation, and form a government. Whether that's going to happen, I highly doubt it, but they need to form a government so that even if they don't get in, that the Labor and Liberal governments and parties, realize like, holy shit, Australians are serious. This is a third party option that we did not see coming, and they actually oppose a lot of the things that we're pushing for, because Labor and Liberal are just two sides of the same coin. And that's why One Nation's had this massive surge at the moment. Even the Greens have it, the Greens get a lot of flack because of their retarded policies, ideologies, and they're a bunch of, pro-pedophile kid groomers. But, whatever. And they're communists, so, that doesn't help doesn't help them at all. But they're an outlier. So you're going to have that minority group of people really standing up for them. And One Nation was the same. And they're getting to the point where it's like Labor and Liberal are two same parties. And Labor people aren't going to vote for Liberal people. I can tell you that. But Liberal people will probably vote for Labor, depending on like certain tax things. I mean, I worked with a lot of blue collar people. The last election, I heard them talking about how they were going to vote for Albanese because he promised to get rid of HECS debts and things like that. And it's like, why should I have to pay for your partner's lesbian basket weaving degree that she got at uni? Why should I have to pay my tax dollars for that? Because that doesn't fucking help me. That doesn't help the average Australian. That's not going to bring house prices down. That's not going to do anything. And they disagreed with him on every single thing, but because he had that one little free handout that he promised and hasn't actually done, they're like, oh, fuck it, we'll throw everything else out. We'll just vote for him for that one reason, even though I disagree with absolutely everything else he says, and I think he's a fucking moron, and he's a lispy fucking retard. And the conversations I had with blue-collar men who, are building this country very slowly and very poorly, but they are building this country. And those people decided that they're going to ignore everything that he's done in the past, ignore everything that he said he's going to do, because he just said he's going to do this one thing, and they just don't want to vote for, Liberal or, say, third party like One Nation or something like that because, well, Pauline, oh, she's great and all, but, it's not really going to happen. And I was like, well, if you don't vote for them, nothing's going to happen. So maybe, at least if you're voting for One Nation, they don't get in, at least your conscience is clear at that point. That's what I look at it as. It's like your conscience is clear. Whatever Albo does, you go, well, I didn't fucking vote for him. A lot of people can't say that. A lot of people say, well, well, he said he was going to, give us free, he was going to legalize weed and give us free HECS debts and all that. It's like, yeah, but he's also doubled the price of, tripled the price of electricity in this country, doubled the price of homes, taxing us through the arse, and now they're bringing in a luxury ute tax. It's a ute tax, and you're going to be charged per, kilometer for your petrol usage in these new cars, unless you buy a hybrid or an electric car from China, which they're getting massive billions of dollars worth of kickbacks for. So we are now paying China to send shitty electric cars here. Thanks, Albo. Great fucking job. Now, we'll read this story here because I've just been rambling. For the news.com.au, poll reveals why One Nation is soaring. A new poll has revealed why support for One Nation is soaring after Pauline Hanson's party overtook the Liberals for the first time ever amidst widespread dissatisfaction with the major parties in the wake of his country's worst ever terror attack. The Freshwater poll published in the Herald Sun on Wednesday showed concerns over the immigration and crime were fueling a surge of support for the minor party. Cost of standard living remained top picked by 66% of voters, the most important issue for the federal government to focus on, followed by the housing and accommodation on 38%. Now, that's completely correct. Is you go to Woolworths or you go to Coles or anywhere like that, you get a shopping trolley full of groceries for your weekly shop. You go shopping once a week. Most people probably do. That shouldn't cost you $500 to $600. Wasn't that long ago, an entire grocery trolley full of, a trolley full of groceries cost you $400, not $600. That's a big increase in a couple of months. The housing crisis. Rent where I live is $700 a week for some houses. And they're not nice houses. They're not mansions. They're shitholes. People are renting out single rooms with a shared kitchen and bathroom and all that for $220 a week. And people are paying for it. It's disgusting. It's insane. It's insanity. And yeah, luckily for me, we bought a house in 2000. We bought and built our house in 2019. We got 5 acres, beautiful little land, quiet area, and we paid 350 for the house and land, and now it's worth 8 to 900. How is that right? Since 6 to 7 years, that's insane. How the hell is any other generation of people supposed to buy a house in this country when the median house price is $1.1 million? It's impossible. You can't do it. And the government's fake housing, affordability scheme that is not helping anyone at all, is actually jacking up the price of houses, is not going to help. And people are sick of it. And people are still, because they said, oh, we're going to help you, we're going to do all these things. But Albo hasn't done anything besides make the problem worse. Importing more people into the country that are breaking our laws, and people like these two terrorists are actually killing our people, whether you're Jewish or not. If you're an Australian citizen, or if you're in Australia as a tourist, you shouldn't have to fear for your life because of a radical ideology shooting you dead in the streets. But nearly 1/3 were concerned about crime, social order, while 27% were concerned by immigration and asylum, according to the poll of 1,050 voters. Now, this is just one poll they're mentioning, but every single poll is showing the same thing. Massive, poll surge for One Nation, and it's nothing but good news. Even if they don't get in and get to form a government, this is going to really put Albo and the Liberal Party on the back burner. Now the coalition has just fallen apart as of yesterday, and it's really going to put, Australians back up on the, top of the list for these people to care about, because they obviously don't give a fuck about us. They care about the, how we look to the rest of the world. They care about China. They care about, immigrants coming in here. They don't care about the everyday Australian person watching this video. They don't care about you. They just want your tax money. They want you to shut up, be a good little, worker, and keep to yourself. And keep earning your tax money, go on your little holiday every now and then shut the fuck up and do what you're told. They don't want you to have fun. They don't want you to buy alcohol. They don't want you to buy cigarettes. They don't want you to, spend money on fruitless things like, four-wheel drive and drive up the beach. They don't want you in your national parks. They don't want you to explore and, reap the benefits of your beautiful country that you're born in. And that isn't for you. That is for their investors and the immigrants that they're bringing in. That is not for you to enjoy. That is for them to enjoy. That is another reason they want their immigrants in this country, because they love their slave class. Australians are too, I wouldn't say lazy. I'd say, they're not going to work for nothing. They're not, they know their value. And a lot of people don't want to pick beans for a lot. I picked beans when I was younger, needed the money. I picked different types of fruits and that. And it's a shit job. It's a hard job. Bending over, breaking your back in the heat. Those little Vietnamese people and that, they do a fucking fantastic job of it. And it's a kind of a job to do. If you want more Australians doing that kind of fruit picking and veggie picking work, they're going to have to pay accordingly. Which they say, it's going to bring up the price of veggies and fruit at supermarkets. No, it won't. The price of vegetables and fruit at supermarkets is already astronomical. The farmers aren't getting the cut of that. The farmers just need to get a bigger cut from Woolworths and Coles and people like that. Big different problem. Not going to get into it today. The poll put out One Nation's primary vote at 90%, up 13 points in May 2025. Federal election, while Senator Hanson was net favourability rating of plus 6%, compared with a minus 9% for the Prime Minister Anthony Albanese and a minus 5% for opposition leader Susan Ley. Susan Ley is a lame duck. Albo is a lispy retard who should be removed from government immediately and sentenced to whatever crimes we can get him for, because he's literally destroying the country around us as we speak. We've definitely seen an increase generally in the rise of immigration as an issue, and we also see crime quite high on the issue agenda. Freshwater strategy head of research Jordan Myers told the Herald Sun. These really are two key issues that One Nation have focused on historically, and Pauline Hanson has been very active post events in Bondi in December last year. So that's definitely led a boost to their support as a party. The latest findings on come after a shock. A news poll published in Australian Monday showed One Nation overtaking the coalition with a primary vote of 22%, up 7 points from the last 2 months. The coalition primary vote has dropped 3 points, a record low of 21%, while Labor fell 4 points to 32%, according to the first news poll of the year, which surveyed 1,224 voters between Monday and Thursday last week. It's first time in Australian history the minor party polled higher than the major parties. The combined primary vote of the coalition is now a record low of 53% and 47% for Australians now backing One Nation, the Greens, Independents, and other minor parties. So that's the problem. The 47% of Australians now backing One Nation, the Greens, Independents, and other minor parties. Those independents and minor parties that are on over 51% agree with Pauline Hanson. They need to shut their shit down, move over there, form a government, and get the fucking ball rolling. Because they could really, really stick it up elbow and the Labor government and the Liberals as well. They could destroy them if we had a actual fighting force of a third party to vote for. Even if the Green... Oh, seriously, I don't agree with the Greens on just about anything. If a few of their people who weren't absolute morons and communist pigs decided to throw their hat in the ring with Pauline Hanson and One Nation and actually put their best foot forward, we could have a government that actually looks out for Australians. Now, the Greens actually do look out for some Australians. They are gay Australians. They are Aboriginal Australians. They are immigrant Australians. I don't agree with anything they do. I'm just saying, like, at least they listen to the people. They listen to the minority of whinging psychopaths and communists and socialists, but they listen to the people. Independents and minor parties, they do the same, but they're never going to get in. So you guys, those guys need to pull their shit together and form a government. Like, we don't need 50 different parties. We don't need a shooters and fishers party when you can vote for One Nation and they're going to still have the same kind of ideas, same kind of ideology as the shooters and fishers party. They're pro-gun. They're pro living in your own country and fishing your own waters. So why wouldn't you? Labor two-party preferred led over coalition falling back to 55 to 45, mirroring the results of last May's election. Earlier, the Demos AU poll published on January 8th put One Nation, the coalition, tied on the primary vote at 23%, with Labor on 29%, a swing of 16.6% to One Nation since the election. That is insane. That is unheard of. And it's not just happening here in Australia, it's happening all over the world. We've got the MAGA movement in America, the Maha movement there as well. We've got the AFD in Germany. The French government just decided that they don't want the right-wing government in, so they just absolved that. I don't know how the French government works, but they've just made it illegal for that government to exist, which is pretty much what I think they're going to do here in Australia. We've got the UK reform with Farage like skyrocketing because they are really over being raped and murdered by immigrants in that country. And the grooming gangs, they are really over it, and they arrest thousands of people a year and imprison them for saying things online and offending people. And I don't know whether they'll get through, but the UK government, really hates their own people, and they only really want to sit there and grandstand for immigrants and minorities and rapists and Muslims in that country. And I don't get how they've even been allowed to form a government there. So Farage hopefully does well over there. We've got Japan, I think she's right-wing as well. So there is a right-wing surge of flowing, like a wave going across the globe. Whether it happens here in Australia is yet to be seen, but this is looking very good. Oh, the Demos AU poll of 1,027 voters suggests two-party preferred led to Labor 52 to 48 against the coalition. Its analysis suggested Labor and One Nation would be tied at 50-50 in a two-party preferred matchup. This is because the coalition preferences flows to One Nation are stronger than One Nation preferences flows to the coalition. According to the Demos AU head of research George Hatzanakos, it's Greek as can be, I would say. Australia is now up to the cusp of following several European countries with far-right populist parties now challenge the government in the polls. He said in a statement, "It is not shocking that when you see other polls, for example, the UK showing a Reform Party led to the first term in UK government. Demos AU survey showed that nearly 1 in 3, 31% of 2025 coalition voters had switched to One Nation, as well as 11% of Labor voters." Mr. Hassan Akos, said that the Bondi attacks had put the leadership qualities of both Prime Minister and the opposition leader to the test. The recent terrorist attack at Bondi has shocked the nation, put issues such as national security, anti-Semitism, immigration and community cohesion firmly in the spotlight, he said. With the rising support of One Nation before the event, it makes a fertile ground for a long-lasting anti-immigration voices of Miss Hansers to gain a further support. Combine this with the electorate's increasing frustration over the rising cost of living, it's no surprise that many Australians are looking for alternatives. Speaking about the stunning news poll result on Monday, Senator Hanson declared that she was ready to fight for a future of the alternative government despite currently holding no seats in the House of Reps. I think that Australia is lacking now with both major political parties is leadership, she told reporters. Yes, Labor actually has a leader and he's a feckless, lispy loser anyway, but Liberal Party has no leader. Susan Ley might as well not be there. She is the shadow of a human being and no one respects anything she says. People are fed up. They've had enough. They're struggling with the cost of living. I'm not here to prop up the coalition or Labor Party or anyone else. I've put out a clear policies for 3 decades. Senator Hanson added, we need to fight for this country, our cultural identity, who we are as Australians. It's amazing to me that the our cultural identity as a white country with Indigenous people doesn't get any play from cultural groups, and that it's the only cultural things that matter are immigrant cultures and I suppose Aboriginal cultures and things like that. If it's a white culture, no one really gives a fuck. Sorry, white culture's built the entire planet, but yeah, who wants to hear about that? It's not racist to call out or criticise policy which both major political parties have tried to advocate, she added. The veteran senator who was first elected in Parliament 30 years ago and remains temporarily banned from the Senate for wearing a burqa to the chamber last year said December 14th Bondi massacre by alleged Islamic extremists was a wake-up call for mass migration. Do you think it was by chance? She said. It is about Islam. It is about the people who brought into this country, and they're not people compatible or suitable for this country. Why do we now have to turn around and make laws to start reining them in? Why don't we look at these people before we allow them into our country? That is what we've got to start questioning. The Prime Minister, speaking to Kiss FM, declared the polls are worried because they can appeal to grievances, but they're a pretty divisive lot. So Albo says that everyone else is divisive but him. That's a divisive statement, him saying that. We do not see a rise in populism of the right-wing variety that can often cause considerable division, he said. It's only dividing between the Australian people and your cohort of extremists on the left. And I think it's a worry. I'm a believer of mainstream politics. See, that's the problem. It is mainstream to want to put Australians first in this country. Whether they're an immigrant to this country, they generally still want to see their rights upheld. They don't want to generally speaking here, a lot of the immigrants coming into this country don't want us to turn into the country they have just left. They do like some of the things that they bring the good things with them and they hopefully leave the shit behind. But a lot of these people aren't leaving the shit behind, they're bringing it with them. But saying that he's a believer in mainstream politics, just because your point of view, you like it, doesn't mean that everything else is contrary to mainstream. A lot of Australians believe in Australia First policies, whether it's, making just sure that the immigration levels are sustainable, which they are not at this point in time. Making sure that we do not waste money overseas, like sending it to Ukraine, sending our military to Ukraine, kissing China's ass. A lot of people don't want us to kiss China's ass. That is a mainstream belief. One Nation is more mainstream than any other fucking politician in government. One Nation is more mainstream than any other party in government. The only problem is the media and the social media and the entire apparatus of government and media is just built and designed to put down other parties so they can't get into power. They don't give a fuck what they think. They could have the exact same policies in place. And Albo would just say, no, they're racist, they're doing this, blah, 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 blah. If they had the exact same policies, they would still say the exact same things. They would say they're not mainstream, they'd say they're fringe right, or extremist, racist, whatever the word of the day is, they would say it. And I think it's where I'm a believer in mainstream politics. Senator Hanson hit back at Mr. Albanese's comments on Sky News on Monday evening. What a hypocrite he is, she said. I've got no time for him. The worst Prime Minister this country has ever had. One Nation leader added that Mr. Albanese's claim was divisive as a pot calling kettle black. Yes, exactly. One Nation leader added that Senator Hanson pointed out the attempts to introduce Voice of Parliament 2023 and his apparent lack of action on anti-Semitism. She closed the interview with a warning to mislay over Labor's hate speech and gun laws, which passed through Parliament on Tuesday night following an extraordinary two-day sitting. Despite a number of coalition defections, One Nation voted against both bills in protest against this rush dog's breakfast. Miss Hanchin wrote on X after the 38-22 Senate vote. So, what do you guys think anyway? Because we need to form a third party in this country, and I think Pauline Hanson's never been poised to do it better than now. It's we've got Barnaby in there, which I'm not a big fan of Barnaby anyway, but whatever. We need them to form a government. They need to get their shit in line. They need to get, they need to get a few key people that can form a government, and they need to push for this right now. They need to get their heads out of their ass, and they really need to push. These tiny little minor parties and minority parties, they need to coalesce around One Nation, whether they quit their party and join One Nation, or whatever they need to do to get them up off the ground and get them into Parliament House and get us on the footing where they could actually form a government, and we could have a right-wing prime minister in this country, because the Labor and Liberal are the exact same fucking idiots. They are the same people. They just steal from us every single day they can, and they give our money to people who don't deserve it and who aren't going to be helping us here in this country. What do you guys think anyway? Let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. I'm going to be trying to put out some more videos later because I've been pretty slack. I've been pretty busy at work doing 60, 70 hours a week. I need the money though, because Christmas was a fucking doozy. And yeah, so if you could like, share, and subscribe to this channel, share my content around, and yeah, subscribe. Help me out. That'd be great. Any ideas that you have, you want me to reach out and talk to, let me know in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.